I sat there feeling all welled up before because all too soon she'll be gone. And 3 of them are gone from our house. There's none left, we thought. We had 9 free days, and then our youngest daughter with a husband moved back in again. It doesn't always all go. It's the truth of it. The reality is a very powerful thing. And unfortunately, in our society today, we live with a very negative image of men. I think one of the things that guys have an incredible fear about is they're going to turn up at church on Sunday because their wife asks them to come and they feel cajoled, or maybe their children ask them to come and feel cajoled, and it's just going to be another knocking session. But that's not what's going to happen here this morning. There'll be some thoughtful points for all of us, and already there has been. You see, because the fact of the matter is, a stereotype has been developed in our society that really does harm father-child relationships. Society portrays fathers more negatively than they portray mothers in the media, says one of the great analysts, Nielsen, on this whole subject. He says that this is the way it's portrayed. Dad's a blockhead when it comes to child raising, especially with his daughter. Mum is considered the expert. These messages discourage fathers from being actively involved. And the truth of the matter is, it's not true. The media will control our society in all sorts of ways. But let's fight back, guys. Yeah? Let's prove it wrong. Now, the reality is that for boys, fathers serve as role models. But for girls, fathers serve as relationship models. That's the way it works. We're just wired up that way. That's the way it happens. And birth order things change things with each of the different relationships with the girls or the boys. But nonetheless, that's the reality. One of the things that amazes me about the media is how they pump up the mums as being the ideal mothers, and yet I've so often observed the conflict that really happens in the homes, often between the mother and the daughter. That seems to be negated. We all have a role to play. And we live in a culture that's really socialized girls for motherhood through dolls and all sorts of other means. However, we've not really nurtured boys toward preparation for manhood and eventually fatherhood. And then we wonder why so many relationships fail. The message men often received is that the need to pay bills. I was amused by this child paying off done a dad's electricity bill. My daughters never did that for me. So unfortunately, as a consequence, and I think that portrayed it very, very well. As a consequence, many men in society, in the sectors of society, have reduced fatherhood down to money. You go out and work, you earn the money, we'll live. You don't go out and work, you don't get enough money, we won't live. Actually, it's not true. I always say, we have created men who can be successful in the stock market, but not in Sesame Street. Any of you guys that haven't watched Sesame Street, you need to go and educate yourself. The whole fathering thing, the understanding children, is so important. Well, that's where we start today. And I want to go on a journey to talk about how good fathers can be. And if you haven't been, well, it's never too late, and we're going to have a bit of fun in the journey. Fathers, are they ever good enough? The question rises. And because of what I've just been saying, the vast majority of men have both the ability and the desire to be great dads, not what the media keeps saying. I don't know of any father, and there may be some, but I don't know of any, that have desired to be total failures as a father. Yet often, and this is the question, and ladies, for you, those of you here who keep knocking at your husbands because they not good enough, they don't do this, they don't do that, they don't do whatever. they need support, not knocking. I've never seen it work where a guy has been knocked continually, that he rises to the bar and becomes a great man. You knock a man's feet from under him and he'll fall down. Every time. So for Father's Day, we want to dwell on the positive things. Who'd like that hot rod? Could have given that as a prize today, eh? Yeah, didn't have enough money, but never mind. Fathering is an opportunity to have a positive impact in an incredible way. The verse that Olivia read out earlier says this: the righteous man leads a blameless life. Blessed are his children after him. And every one of us wants our children to be blessed. And none of us do it perfectly. I haven't certainly done everything perfectly. But that's not what God's saying. So people are going to be righteous. They're going to put things right when they do make a mess up. They're going to keep seeking to achieve, keep seeking to give the best to the children. But it means that we've got to stand up ourselves. So let's look at what a good man is. Good men make good fathers. Good men make good fathers. And some of you see the Britain motorcycle there. My daughter, when she was younger, she was my oldest daughter. I had no boys. She was my boy at times. So when she was at college, guess what her project was? Her project, one of her big projects, was the Britain motorcycle. Did I love it? We went into the museum. They convinced me to go to the museum one day. You know how Adele convinced me it was worth going? Because I hate museums. I literally hate museums. I have a hatred for museums. Get the idea? Right? I just don't like them. I got dragged around them when I was a kid, and I hated them. But Adele told me that there was a Britain motorcycle sitting in the front entrance to Te Papa. So I went in there, and we sat down while Western wandered around the museum, and we looked at the Britain motorcycle. That was just perfect. You know why for me? Because I'm an inventor, I'm a creator, I do design things, all sorts of gadgets. That bike was handcrafted by a man who was determined to beat the world, and he did. He beat Ducati, he beat every major bike, just cleaned them up. Down the back straight at Daytona, the guy riding it, whose name I can't recall right now, he was riding down the back straight, and as he went past the Ducati, who had his head down behind the windshield with a full wrap on the bike, he comes up beside the Ducati, and he waves at the guy, grabs both the handlebars, wraps the throttle full bore, and he lifted the front wheel and took off and left the Ducati in the dust. I sat there thinking about that, and I thought, awesome. Awesome. That's the kind of dad I want to be and always want to be. That's the kind of dad, from the time they're little, that I'm going to be the dad who can rap. You know, one of the interesting things about the story that his wife told after he died? That he was a busy man doing all these things, but he was a great dad. He's an icon for a great dad in some ways. Good men make great fathers. So it's easy to be good, isn't it? Yeah? Hello? None of you agree. Ladies, do you think it's easy to be good? Hello, let me just check. You are awake. Guys, it's not that hard to be good. It's not that hard to be great. So good men make good fathers. Yes. Here's some men who are going with it. Okay. Next one. Fathers unlock the potential of the next generation. They do. Fathers unlock the potential of the next generation. In fact, they do more than unlock it. You see, really, the way that we live means that we're creating a legacy of blessing for their families and for the nation in the end. Some amazing stories about fathering in history have impacted me greatly. It was one of the presidents of America who talked about how his father used to teach him things. Jimmy Carter, I think it was, if I remember rightly. Used to teach him all the basics. I think it was at 5 years old that he gave him some money and the responsibility to start his own little garden. It was not long after, I think he was only 8 years old, that he had a little produce line going, and he had a little bit of money that he'd saved up because his dad had taught him how to save. He had a fair amount of money when suddenly the cotton market collapsed. Bang! It dropped to nothing. And his dad very wisely said to little Jimmy, he says, Jimmy, I think a really wise thing to do right now would be to take your money and to buy as much cotton as you can, because it's going only for a few cents a bale. And we'll store it in my shed and keep it for a better day. So he did. He got all the money he'd saved, because they lived in a little wee country area. And he bought all the cotton that they could buy. And they stored it and held it, only for a few months. And then suddenly, the cotton prices did what this father had expected. They went straight through the roof, really high. And he said to his son, you see what's happening, son? Now's the time to sell the cotton. And they sold it. And he had a lot of money. He made a huge profit on it. I forget what percentage it was. It was massive. It was enough for him to buy some houses. So he got his son, and he said to his son, son, right now, with that money, you could buy 5 houses. Because the house market was really low. So they went and bought houses. You know, you look at the heritage of that man, and you can see why he was a great achiever. You see, not all of us had fathers like that, but we can all be fathers like that. We might not be able to work the stock exchange. We may not have a cotton crash. But we certainly can give our children the ability to fly, to be able to take adventure. You see, fathers unlock the potential of the next generation. You know, one of the interesting things is, most fathers historically have tended to limit their children to their own abilities instead of seeing the potential of their children. One of the greatest things I think about the fact that my wife and I are so different is that when you put us together and you put it into our children, you got something better, because me on my own, I'm not that good. But me as a father with my wife, it's a different story altogether. So great fathers unlock the potential of the next generation. And if we're going to unlock the potential, we need to look at it. Children who grow up with involved fathers demonstrate some things. Now, I want to talk with some of you here, because some of you are fathers, but you're not with your kids. You're not able to be with your kids for whatever reason. Doesn't really matter right now, today, why. But it doesn't mean to say you can't be involved. Doesn't mean to say you can't be there for them. So children who grow up with involved fathers demonstrate some things. Here's some important things. They develop really good, important problem-solving abilities. Secondly, they have an increased curiosity because their fathers teach them how to be curious. It's a natural thing in a man to do that. They have increased exploration of the world around them. They tend to want to explore more. They tend to want to try things out more. They have less hesitance and fear in new situations than a boy who's grown up or a girl who's grown up without their father being involved in their lives. They have greater tolerance for stress and frustration. And they have more willingness to try new things. That's incredible attributes, just by being there and involved with your kids. If you're out working all the time, of course, that's pretty difficult to do. Then the next stage of it, father involvement increases cognitive capacities for young children. You're going to ask, what are cognitive capacities? You have a look at this, you'll see what it is. They have higher verbal skills. They have higher scores on assessment of cognitive competence. They have the ability to understand things at a greater level. Their daughters have an increased confidence in math with their father's involvement. This all comes out of research that was done. I don't know why the sons don't, but the daughters do. The son's IQ is related to the father's nurturing. So if the father nurtures well, the children's IQ will be higher. This has been based in good, solid research. If the father's not involved, the IQ will be lower. It has nothing, listen to me carefully, it has nothing to do with how much money you have. It has to do with who you are with your kids. It's all about it. So how do we go about blessing our children? They're my two natural-born daughters here, sitting on my knee when they were little, and Adele and Johanna. In spite of the fact that some of you think that Adele was always smaller than Johanna, it's not true. You can see a living example. But Adele was born very little, and I just looked at my girls and I thought, what on earth am I going to do to raise these girls? Each time the two were born, and then when Sailor came into a family, oh wow, it's scary stuff. But there are things you can do that will bless your children. You see, the truth of the matter is, nice thoughts about your kids are okay, but you've got to give more than nice thoughts. You know, you can do all sorts of things. They can do all sorts of powerful things. If you're willing just not to have just nice thoughts, but they become a powerful legacy when written down. I know some time ago, Johanna wrote me a letter. She wanted to express some concerns and thoughts that she had. And I wrote back to her because I just felt I had to respond in a letter. This was a few years ago. I was amazed at what she said to me afterwards. A little bit of a writing of a letter. It really didn't take that much time. It took a lot of thought. But it was just neat to know that my daughter felt that way about it. Write a card or a letter to each of your children. You know, one of the things that I treasure most as a father are the cards and letters my kids have given me over the years. Have you ever thought that they might treasure them as well? I've actually kept them just to remind me. The other night I sat in my workshop with my new milling machine, unpackaged the box and looked through the cards and the little things the kids had made for me over the years. I knew Father's Day was coming up and kind of made my heart melt a bit. And I always told them, guys, it's okay to tell them, listen to this carefully, it's okay to tell them socks and undies and ties are not great Father's Day presents. Any of you that have bought them for your father, you can probably trade them in. Only kidding, okay? A starting point can be to focus on their faith and character. Then encourage them and give them your advice. You see, the most important value we can give our kids is not to be worried about the little things they do or don't do that suit our moods and swings, but to teach them how to think, to teach them how to process things well, because then they will do well. If you just try and bully them, they won't do well. But if you encourage them and help them develop their character and their nature, they're going to be great achievers. They're going to do well. Our children were raised right here where you're sitting. They slept and we lived in this area because our house used to be here for years. And I can say with integrity, it is not about where you live or how much money you have. It's about who you are. It's about who you really are. And you can do great things for your kids. Second thing, how to bless your children. Somehow, it's jumped on me. Young children with involved fathers display enhanced social skills in these areas. They have greater empathy. They have less gender role stereotyping, so they won't be pushed into being something they aren't. They have more awareness of needs and rights of others because fathers are motivated in that area. They're more generous generally, except if the father's a total stinge. And if you're a stinge, well, you better change it. You don't want your kids to be like that when you get older, eh? Because they might tell you you can go and live in the home and you're not going to come near our house. What you teach them, you reap. They have far higher self-esteem if dad's involved. And they also are more self-controlled and less impulsive. You know, when dads are really keenly involved, they're going to be far less impulsive. You know, one of the things that happened to us, my girls are growing up. The time came that boys were starting to show up on the scene. And I sat down and I had these nice little talks with them. And I'd sort of remind them that they're precious. They're precious to me. And I want them to have the best in life. And therefore, one of the wisest things they could ever do would be to remember that. And to tell their boyfriends, if their boyfriends try exploring where they shouldn't be exploring, that one, they were given permission by me as a father to slap the guy in the face. That's not a violent act. That's an appropriate act in that situation. And the second thing was that they were to tell the guy that if ever they tried that again, that their father was going to sit down and have a talk with the boy. Now, Bok was told that. You see, the truth of the matter was, I didn't mean to infer that was in the bad way that could have come across. I realize why you laugh now. It wasn't because of that. It was just the fact of the matter was that we need to care for our children. We need to be there for them. And if we are there giving them good instruction, they're going to be less impulsive. And can I suggest to you, we'd have far less pregnancies outside of marriage. We'd have far less failures at school if we were able to sit down and just spend the time. And you know the neat thing about it? If you're far more satisfied spending time with your kids than earning a few more dollars with your boss. Isn't that true, guys? The strategic importance of men in society is great. You see, for men and specifically fathers, there is intense opposition in the spiritual realm. And I want to say this is why a lot of guys don't have the gut to walk with God. Because they fail to see the importance of eternity for themselves and their kids. I've always been amazed. It's always puzzled me. How come more dads can't see that if they walk with God, then their kids are going to go to heaven? Who would want their kids to go to hell? I've had some fathers say, well, I don't care if I go to hell. I do. Even if you don't care about yourself, what about your kids? I mean, really, honestly, truthfully. I really think the best thing I've ever done for my kids is to have a really healthy relationship with God. But you see, the truth of the matter is that men have got a lot of opposition against them because one of the interesting things is I don't think Satan's too worried about the woman becoming Christians. Because if a woman becomes a Christian, there's only a very small percentage of their children are likely to be followers of Christ in terms of the studies that have been done. If men become Christians, I think the figure runs at 96% of their children are likely to be Christians by the time they die. Doesn't that say something? Men, if we're going to make a difference, we've got to let God make the difference in us. It's a spiritual battle. We've got to win it. We guys are winners. Amen? Next one. Great men have a great relationship with the great Father. That's really what it comes down to. It doesn't mean just going to church or anything like that. Great men, if you look at history, you will see the really great men in our Western world that we've known of, and even in other parts of the world, have been men who've had great relationships with God. It's an awesome story. They've been the odd one that hasn't. Winston Churchill was one. But you know the interesting thing even about him? He recognized during the war years that when the society was failing, there was only one response. When Germany was beating up on them, he, along with the king, called the whole nation to prayer. He claimed to be an atheist. I'm suspicious. Next one. We men have our own cultural idiosyncrasies we need to be aware of. because it helps us develop, but some guys aren't aware of it. See, we naturally do some things that are cultural idiosyncrasies. See, a lot of guys, they'll go and spend time with the pub at with their mates at the pub. With the pub at their mates, I don't know. Some of them probably it is around that way. And they don't realize how important it is. And their woman get on their case about spending all the time in the pub. Actually, you don't need to spend time in the pub, you see, because in actual fact, it's not as simple as that. You see, because healthy men need something, and they have this need, and often they'll express it in the wrong way. But the best way to understand it is that guys need accountability. They need blokes that are going to be around them and be able to talk things through. You know, you think guys don't talk much, ladies. They do. In the right way. You know. They'll be sitting around. How's it going? Yeah. Having a good day? Yeah. What about you? Yeah. That's about what most women think men's conversation's about, because that's often how it starts. But once they get below the surface, they will talk at depth, and there'll be a huge change happen because they can help each other. And guys need each other. And God encourages that we do spend time together in all sorts of different ways. We have in our congregation here four-wheel drive groups. You know, a group of guys get together and they'll go and spend time together, and they work through issues together, and they'll work things out in their lives. You know, one of the greatest things about the Christian community is that we can help each other change because we've got a basis on which to change. We're not just arbitrarily living, hoping that the next guy's going to be all right, and maybe I might even get into heaven. We're living with intention. And when you have four-wheel drive groups, that means 3 or 4 or 5 of you get together and you hang out together, and maybe you have coffee together if you like coffee, but never mind. Or you do those kind of things, and you just talk and just share, and you help each other. You know, when somebody's going through a struggle, you can pick each other up, because blokes are good at doing that when they get together. You see these 4 guys in the water rafting. You do things together, have a bit of fun together, have a bloke's night out, whatever. But you don't need to get yourself sozzled to have a great life. It's a reality. So I want to finish with this. I want to finish with this really clearly. Here's some blokes. Some are fathers. A couple of them are not yet. You know, the truth of the matter is, really effective men are men of God. Did you notice that song? It was being sung when the Hoyt team, the father and son, were going through that triathlon. You know, that triathlon's an incredible thing. I think the running stage alone is 26 kilometers. Miles, is it? Miles, not kilometers, sorry. Got it wrong. 26 miles. And the other stages are equally hard. Equally hard. You know, Dad Hoyt there, 2 years he hasn't been able to run. He's done it year after year. 2 years he wasn't able to run because he'd had a heart attack, and so he couldn't go and do the run. But he's back there again the next year. I don't know how you feel, or how you would feel if you had a son who had that kind of major disability, trying to care for him. I don't know. Most of us have got the opportunity to not even have to cope with that kind of difficulty. And God wants us to know what it is to have a connection with Him and to be able to give the best to our kids. And I know you guys, if you're not already fathers, I want you to be great fathers when you do become fathers, and do it the right way. And you guys that are already fathers, I want you to have an awesome time knowing that even if you failed in the past, that, you know, one of the neat things about God is all you need to do is say, okay, God, I'm sorry, and maybe even need to say sorry to your kids. But you can be a great father from today on. Forget about the past if you failed. God doesn't want to beat up on you for that. You can make a difference. Every man in this place can make a difference. And ladies, can I make one suggestion? Give the men the grace and the room to be able to grow. Men resist pressure, but they respond to encouragement. That's a part of the nature of a bloke. They're different to women. You need to hear that. You need to hear it clearly. Over the years, I've had one or two women who've said to me, "Oh, my husband, he's become a Christian, but he's not going anywhere. He's not growing enough. Or he hasn't become a Christian yet," or whatever. One of my best pieces of advice I could ever give you is don't pressure them. Give them room. Give them encouragement. Pray for them. Be there for them. Because guys are different than women. And often women will try and do things about guys, write about guys, talk about guys and all the rest of it. But they don't know guys. They just don't. They shouldn't claim to be authorities on it. You guys, you're finding things are hard. Think about it seriously. You were designed to have a great life, to be great fathers, have an awesome future. And you've got it from this day onwards. And I pray God's blessing be with you. Let's talk to God together. Father God, we want to thank you for every one of us have got a father here. We want to thank you, Lord, for the life they've given us, even the fact that we were born. Lord God, I myself had resentment about being born years ago because of the conflict with my dad. But I'm thankful and grateful to the life that you've given us. And Lord, each one of us here has a reason to be thankful. Help us to discover what that is and to be able to live in a way that's going to make a difference in this world, make a difference to our kids and make a difference to the nation, make a difference to this world. Help us to aspire to be like you and forgive us for the times when we've failed. In Jesus' mighty name. And they all said,